Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to our webinar, Ask an Employer with the City of Champaign, which is part of our Get That Job webinar series here at the Champaign Public Library. My name is Jordan Neal, and I am the career librarian here at the library. So thank you all for joining us. For the latest library news and updates, please visit our website, champaign.org, or you could follow us on social media. You could email us at librarian@champaign.org, or you can chat with us just by visiting the homepage of our website. Moving on to a couple of Zoom features available to you that might help during this webinar. There are some icons at the bottom of your Zoom screen depending on your device. On the far left, you have the options that control your sound or your speaker. Moving to the right and within the center of the window includes a chat and raised hand option. You can use these options to ask us questions or share any comments. You can enter your question into the chat or raise your hand and we can unmute you and so you can speak and ask your question. Our presenter will be happy to answer any questions at the end of the presentation. I would also like to remind everyone that most of our webinars are recorded and posted to the library's YouTube channel. Finally, I would like to introduce our presenter, Stacy Rachel. We invite you to read Stacy's entire bio on our website, but Stacy has graciously agreed to join us again to share some insights as an HR specialist for the City of Champaign. Thank you for joining us, Stacy, and I will turn it over to you.
Well, thank you so much, Jordan. I appreciate the opportunity to present today and interact with everyone who's online and with the library community. First thing I'd like to do is start sharing my screen. There we go. So today I'm going to speak about the City of Champaign as an employer, who we are, what types of positions that we have available, and how you can find out when we do have opportunities to apply for those positions and become an employee with the City of Champaign. As Jordan mentioned, I'm happy to respond to any questions at the end of the presentation, and I appreciate all of your time and attendance here today. So first, I just wanted to give a brief overview of what I'll be covering during our presentation and our time together today. First off, I'll start with an overview of our community and the city organization. Then I'll segue into how to go about finding open positions with the city, how to interpret the different parts of our job postings so you get the most information out of them that you can, what our application process is, and I'm going to emphasize a certain component of that which we use quite frequently and very heavily, which is our supplemental questions in our application, and then just a brief overview of our entire selection process. And then we'll finish with some Q&A. So for those of us joining today who may not be familiar with Champaign and our community, we are located in East Central Illinois. So we are at the intersection of Interstate 72, 74, and 57. So what that does is that positions us to be very conveniently located to larger areas such as Chicago, St. Louis, and Indianapolis. We are a very diverse population and self-defined as a micro-urban community with a population of about 88,000. Since we are home to the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign and Parkland College, that helps to aid in the diversity of our community. And you see that as you walk and shop and attend different events or locations throughout our community, that we do have people from all around the world who have made Champaign their home, and we appreciate them and glad to have them here. As an employer, the City of Champaign has about 500 employees, and that does not include the library, and I'll touch on that a little bit briefly about that relationship between the city organization and the library. One thing I wanted to do as I started off today was describe what our city mission and values are. So our mission is to provide responsive, caring, effective service and partnership with our community. And we have values that have been identified that guide our work. These are values of personal integrity, responsibility, respect, teamwork, and results. And I would really like to share that these, the mission and the values, these are things that we do refer back to on a daily basis and we rely on. These aren't something that we print out and post on a wall or put in a book somewhere and say, oh, well, that's nice. So we've identified that. Now what's the next thing we're going to do? These are things that we really consider and contemplate about when we're thinking about what services we want to offer our community, what programs are available, what sort of planning and businesses and economic development are we looking for to grow our city and our community, and how we interact with each other and with the people that we work with and communicate with, our citizens, our residents, our community members, people who visit here and work here, and also come here to play. So these things are really important to us on a daily basis. What I have up on the screen right now is the organizational chart of the city, just as a brief overview. So you can see at the very top is the citizens of Champaign. These are the people that we serve and work for every day. And then the citizens are the people who elect our city council. Council members are the ones who provide the guiding direction to the city staff to do our daily work and planning activities. What we have here within the city itself, as far as the organizational structure, is we are comprised of 10 city departments that are listed here in the middle part of your screen. So some of these things might be pretty familiar, or things that you might have a general understanding about, such as the fire department or the police department. Public safety is of paramount importance in our organization and our community. We have an IT department that helps support not just the city's IT infrastructure, but also what's forward facing. So our website and our email and other things that we offer that our visitors and citizens can use. We also have some internal departments that are probably very familiar. So we have a finance department and a legal department. We have a public works department as well. And a lot of what they do is outwardly focused to help serve our community. And they cover things such as parking services and engineering services. So that dovetails in with community development and planning and construction, stormwater management and things like that. So when the streets flood, that's partially due to stormwater management. So we have a public works department that has staff available to deal with those types of issues. We also have an operations division within public works. So these are the people that are out in the field, out in the area on a daily basis. They're working on the streets and the sidewalks. They're maintaining the city's trees and urban forests. They're plowing the streets when it's inclement weather, things like that. I am a member of the Human Resources Department. So what we do is we help the people who help the city. So we provide services such as benefits administration, filling positions that are vacant for the city, payroll for people who are current and past employees of the city. So that's an overview of our 10 main city departments. Now off to the side, you see we have a couple of other departments that are listed there. One is the Champaign Public Library, who's so graciously allowing me to give this presentation today. The library's what we consider to be a quasi-city department. They are their own organization, their own agency. They have their own, as you can see, board of trustees. That's their governing body. They do their own staffing, so they do their own recruitment and hiring for positions within the library. However, the city does provide certain services to the library, things like payroll and benefits administration, some financials administration, some legal support, and things like that. So we do have a relationship together. That's very similar to the relationship we have with METCAD 911, which is our local emergency communications and response center. METCAD, as you can see on the chart, they have their own policy board that governs their activities and work that they do. However, the city is the lead agency of the agencies that they provide their 911 services to. And as such, we provide them with certain services, such as we do the recruiting and hiring in collaboration with METCAD staff. And then we do payroll and benefits administration and other types of support services that we provide to them. So I just wanted to give that as a little bit of a foundation for everyone today. So what this translates to within these different departments is we have a whole range of different types of positions that are available for people who might want to be interested in joining the city as an employee and supporting the work that we do. We have positions that are professional or administrative in character and function. So everything from administrative assistants to an assistant city attorney. We also have some of those IT positions that I referred to, such as a database or network administrator. We also have a GIS administrator, because GIS and mapping very important to the work that we do and planning and tracking our activities. We have a sustainability specialist, because that's something that's very important to us as an organization, not just in the work that we do, but to support sustainability efforts throughout our community. We have technical positions, such as an engineering technician who helps with different construction or other infrastructure projects. We have a finance technician. We have a multimedia producer. So that's someone who coordinates the majority of our city programming on CGTV. It manages the city's YouTube channel and other types of video functions that we do. And we have inspectors, a wide range, as you can see here, people who inspect buildings for safety, the electrical components of buildings, plumbing and mechanical systems, and then property maintenance inspectors. So these come to play even in our neighborhoods to make sure that the grass doesn't get too high and cause a visual impediment to drivers and things like that. Then we also have a variety of service maintenance positions. A lot of these are housed within our Public Works Department, as I mentioned. So these are people that collect money from our parking meters and repair them as needed. People who put up all the street signs, or people who help control and repair the traffic lights here in town, as well as the arborists who maintain the city's trees and urban forest, as I mentioned. So this is just a small sampling of the types of positions that we have, but I just wanted to share this so you gain a better understanding of, again, just the diverse array of different types of positions and job opportunities that we have with our organization. So working for a municipality, it's a little bit different than working in the private sector. And, you know, as I'm working in recruiting for people to become employees with the city and recruiting to fill our open positions, I'm always very interested in what's the motivating factor. Why is someone potentially interested in working for the city and being a municipal employee or being a public servant? I found that there are a couple of different career paths that lead people here. One is that this is something that people know about through their own life activities. Maybe they have friends or family who've had careers in different aspects of public service. And they're very directed. They've gone to school for a certain career path, and they know they want to work in municipal government. There are others, such as myself, that I had no idea what being a municipal employee involved or what city government actually does. I never really paid attention to who plowed the streets or who made sure that the street lights were working appropriately and things like that. I applied for an ad posting for a position. I started off in the Public Works Department in the Parkings Division. And I went in, I did a little research before I went into my interview and had a little bit of an understanding when I went to my interview. And then when I was fortunate enough to be hired for that position, started working, my eyes were just really opened to everything that we as an organization do. And what keeps us in public service is that this is really a very personally fulfilling type of work. You really get that opportunity to give back and serve your community and help the community grow and be a place for people to raise a family, for people to work, to people to come and visit. And so what I have and like to show for you right now is a brief video of one of our telecommunicators at MetCAD, Brent Doherty, about why or what's a motivator. Why should people choose a career in public service?
I think it's maybe a rare thing when you can have real and direct and personal impact on someone's lives. And we get to do that really all day, every day. People call us for small things that they need help with, but a lot of people call us for really, really big things, some really difficult situations and maybe what could be the worst day of their lives. And we get to have real impact, and we get an opportunity to provide real help and real service to the communities that we serve.
So as I mentioned, Brent is one of our telecommunicators at MetCAD. So if you dial 911 that you're having an emergency, you dial 911, Brent may be one of the people that picks up the phone and responds to that call. So there's a very direct link between that position and making a direct impact on people's lives. But really, what else can that look like? That can look a variety of different ways of being in public service and making a difference in people's lives. So along with MetCAD, police and fire department staff, public safety in general, it's pretty well known how you can serve and support our community members. But public service, community service can also look like, again, as I mentioned before, a building inspector who goes into a building and makes sure that that building is safe for everyone who enters it moving forward. It can be a city planner who's working to help the city grow and develop and bring in more economic growth opportunities to the city. It can be that maintenance worker who is adding new traffic signals as the city grows and the traffic levels become a little bit higher. So for pedestrian vehicle safety, we have those traffic signals. It can be a coordinator in the Neighborhood Services Department who's registering a new homeowners association or new neighborhood group to help keep our neighborhoods safe and healthy. And it can be a clerk in the finance department who's walking a new business owner through the licensing and permitting process. So there's just so many ways that we on a daily basis have that opportunity to be of service. And I look forward to that personally every day. So next, what I would like to do is I am going to move away from my presentation and open up the city's website and walk you through some of the information available there. So if you'll bear with me for just one moment. You need to. Okay, so this is the city's website. So if you type in City of Champaign into your search engine, this is our main landing page. And there's a lot of information available on our website. Too much for me to go into during the course of this presentation. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to focus on the purpose of this presentation, which is how to identify open positions with the city and how to complete that application and selection process. So up here in the upper right-hand corner, you can see there's a link for jobs. So we click on that, we'll take you to our landing page that lists our current job opportunities. So these are the current positions that we are accepting applications for at this very moment for the city. So we have a civil engineer position open with the Public Works Department. We are accepting applications for experienced police officers to work in our police department. We have a grant manager position. That's in the finance department. That's someone who's going to be, you may have heard references to the American Rescue Plan Act, providing monies to different cities and municipalities. So the city of Champaign is receiving some money, grant money, through that act. And so this grant manager will help allocate those funds and work with our community partners to funnel those funds back into supporting our community activities. We have a housing rehabilitation technician position in the Neighborhood Services Department. We have an opening for an executive position. This is our Public Works Director. So this is the person who's going to lead all of those functions within that department. And we have a records manager and also the city clerk in the finance department. This is someone who has a lot of responsibility for not only managing records within the department, within the organization, but also making information available to the public upon request or just generally. So it's the transparency of our government that they help ensure. And finally, we have openings for telecommunicator 1, such as Brent, who we saw in the video just a few minutes ago. These are the people that answer the phone or respond to those emergency 911 calls. So at any point in time, the listing of open job positions will change. So this is where you would see what's open at this particular point in time. Now that's one way to look for jobs with the city. You just occasionally on a regular basis, you look at our jobs page and see what's available. But it's not quite the most efficient use of your time for sure, because there might be, you might forget about it for a while, get distracted, and maybe miss a posting that's within an area of interest to you. So what I recommend is people who are looking for potential employment with the city to complete what is called a job interest card. And you can see here at the top of the job opportunities page, there's some text. First of all, it talks about how to get support if you have any technical difficulties with this page. There's information on the phone number and how to contact support for that. But also here, this is a link to our job interest card. What this is, it is an online form that you will complete. So first step is you identify the categories of positions that you might be interested in. So if you're interested in a customer service position, and that is something that is prevalent across many of our city departments, but you can search that. you could select dispatch. So that would be if you're interested in telecommunicator positions, legal department, just a variety of categories that we have available here. So then let's just say I have a variety of interests, even forensics. So I want to select that, and then I click on subscribe. And what I would do is I would complete this form here. Your name, first name, last name, and your email address. Then when you click submit, we receive that information. And for the next 12 months, if we post any positions on this page that fit under any of the categories that you have selected, you'll receive an email notification in your email box. So that way you are a recipient of those notifications rather than having to come to our website on an occasional basis to look to see what's available. And as it approaches, time approaches the end of that 12-month initial period, you'll receive a notification asking if you want to continue your subscription for another 12 months. So I like to recommend that to people just because it really helps make more efficient use of your time. And I'm sure if you're like me, time is in short supply these days. So that's something I really do like to recommend to people. Now what I'd like to do is I'm going to go back to our job opportunities page, and I want to walk you briefly through what the components of our job posting are. So just because it's at the top, I'm going to select the Civil Engineer 1 job posting. So this information at the top of the page is just some basic information about the position. This salary that's listed here is the full salary range for that position. All of our positions that we have with the city have salary ranges, and they're all public information, so we make them available to people because that is usually a consideration, something that people would like to know even before applying for a position. The location, most of our positions take place here in the city of Champaign. We were working remotely during much of 2020 or 2019 and 2020, but earlier this year we started back in person. So we are back working in our offices with proper safety protocols in place, of course. It's a full-time position, tells the department that the position's located. So this one's in the Public Works Department. The job number, which is an internal tracking piece of information for us. And then this is important, this is when the posting closes. So the closing date is the application deadline. So this is a hard deadline for us for the majority of our positions. So if you miss that deadline for whatever reason, you have to wait until we have another vacancy to apply for that particular position again. So always keep that in mind. Always recommend start working on your application early. We usually see a bunch of applications come in the day or two before that application deadline. And I understand we're all busy, or you're finessing and finalizing your application itself and other materials that you want to include with it, which I understand. But sometimes there are technical difficulties, either with a computer internet connection or computer crashes or something like that. So I always like to recommend just starting a little bit early and try to finish before the deadline if possible. So if you have something happen and experience some technical difficulties, you can get some assistance with that and not miss that deadline. So then as we move throughout the rest of the job posting, the first part is the description of the position. So this is some introductory information. Again, it sort of repeats what the information at the top of the posting is. It talks about the position title, where it's located, and what department. And then the second part here is the responsibility of the position. So what are the functions that the position fulfills? What's the purpose of this position? what sort of day-to-day activities will the person who's selected for this position find themselves doing? That sort of thing. So it's just a brief overview. This is not the full job description, but a summary of that instead. Then as we work our way down, we have our qualifications section. And as you can see, we have two different parts to this section. The first part is the required qualifications. So these are things that we consider to be the have-to-haves. These are the things that someone coming into this position on day one, they need this knowledge, they need this experience, they need these abilities on day one. So these cover things in the areas of education or training, knowledge, skills, abilities. And you can see that this one talks about education. There's a bachelor's degree, and it even specifies the area or the major area of study for that degree. It specifies how many years of experience. There's a professional certification that's a requirement for this position. But you can see it says that applicants either have to have that registration or the ability to obtain it within 6 months of hire. So maybe not day one, but we do put a time frame on completing that requirement. Availability to work outside of normal work hours is needed, because in the responsibilities for the position section above, it did reference that sometimes the person in this position will have to attend meetings to talk about projects to the community. So we want to make sure the community has involvement and input into certain infrastructure projects. So this person may have to attend a meeting in an evening. And then a driver's license and a good driving record, because this person goes out in the field and works on projects in the community. This other section is the preferred qualifications. These are the things that we call the nice to haves. So while it would be nice to have for the person who's selected for this position to have these things on day one, it's not necessary absolutely that they have them day one, but they will need to develop them or obtain them in order to fully do all of the requirements of the position or fulfill all the job duties and functions of the position. So that may require a little extra mentoring or coaching or training in order for someone to get fully up to speed. So if someone has previous municipal, county, state, or federal engineering experience, that's a preferred qualification, just because work in the public sector for engineering is a little bit different than in the private sector. So if someone does not have that public sector experience, it won't prevent them from being considered. It will just, it's a nice bonus if an applicant has that. So these preferred qualifications, again, they're not necessary for people to have, and they will not eliminate people from consideration if candidates do not possess them. The required qualifications are potential eliminators from consideration. These are pretty hard and fast requirements. Then as we move down, this next section, starting here, gives some other information about the job posting itself. So this position, it does say drug screening will be required. And that's something that's a post-offer pre-employment test. All of our city positions, actually, we require drug screening as part of the process. It also gives the annual starting salary range. So you may remember at the very top of the posting, I said that was the full position salary range. We see the starting salary range. The starting of the range is the same, but it only goes up to the midpoint. So it is our process or our policy that we hire people depending on their qualifications based on beginning of the range to midpoint. There's some reasons for that. First of all, if someone starts at the top of the range, there's really nowhere for them to go as far as monetary compensation in the future. And so it's nice when you get a pay increase, and I enjoy that. I'm sure everyone else does as well. So we want to make sure that people have opportunities to continue to move up through the pay range and get those pay increases based on performance. So this position, it does have a salary range. This is a non-bargaining unit position, which means that employees in this position are not covered by a collective bargaining agreement, or they're not part of a bargaining unit, or not part of a union. Our union or bargaining unit positions, those have very set starting rates of pay. So there's not any leeway for those positions as there are for the NBU, but we do make a lot of effort in our compensation structure to make sure that our salary ranges and rates of pay are very competitive and commensurate with other municipalities as well as the private sector. Then this last piece of information here is that applications must be submitted online no later than the date. So this gives information, again, that's repeated from the top of the posting about that application deadline. And we have other information about the city. This is our equal opportunity employment statement. So we are an equal opportunity employer. It is definitely one of the goals of the city to make employment with the city as open and accessible to people who reside in our community. So we encourage people from all backgrounds, women, minorities, everyone to apply for our positions. However, it is our ultimate goal and responsibility through our hiring and selection process to identify the best qualified person from our applicant pool to hire for those positions. So there's basic information about contacting our department if you have any questions. And then all of our applications, all of our positions do require an online application. We do not accept paper applications anymore and haven't for many years. So if you do not have a personal computer at home or something that you can use to fill out an online application, we do list some options available for public access to computers, one of which, of course, is our Champaign Public Library, both the main branch and the Douglas branch. And I highly recommend, if you need any help filling out an online application, either for the city or elsewhere, to utilize the staff at both library locations. Can't say enough positive things. I am at the library all the time. I personally don't have a computer at home. So whenever I need to use a computer for personal use, I go to the library. So I am there all the time and have asked for help and watched staff help many other people. So that's one option. And then also the Illinois WorkNet Center over on Mattis Avenue in Champaign has computers available for public to use to submit job applications. And as I mentioned before, this is our mission and value statement. So again, we reiterate that here in every job posting because we want people who are considering employment with the city to know who we are as an organization. And so this is, again, very important to us in our daily work. So we repeat that here in every job posting. And if we go back up to the posting, this next option here, the category is our benefits. So this will describe the benefits available to for each particular type of position that we have. So again, this reiterates that this particular position of Civil Engineer 1 is part of the non-bargaining unit. So these are the benefits available to employees in that employee group. So we believe that we have very robust benefits available For our employees, it's something, since we are a larger employer, can negotiate great rates and benefit coverages for our employees. So we have paid sick leave, paid personal leave, vacation leave, and then also 10 city holidays. So helping with that work-life balance as much as possible. We also have health insurance available to our employees, city paid life insurance policy, plus also employee paid supplemental policies for themselves or for their dependents. We do have a pension system. Depending on which type of position, the pension system can change, but helping our employees save money for retirement is really important to us. Because again, in the HR department, we serve not just current employees, but past employees of the city. And that's just a brief overview of some of the benefits that we have available to our employees. But we do want to mention that there in the posting. And this right here is something I mentioned in the agenda that I was going to emphasize. This is what we call supplemental questions. So each of our postings and each of our online applications is going to have a series of questions associated to it specifically. And these relate to aspects of that particular position. And so these are required to be completed as part of the application. And what this is, it helps us as we review our applications to evaluate your qualifications as fully and accurately as we can. The application itself is pretty standard. It has sections for personal information, just like contact information, that sort of thing. Then education history, work and training history, certifications, or any other things that you want to note about your abilities as they pertain to this particular position that you're applying for, references, things like that. But this really gives us an opportunity to, it helps us cull through your qualifications. So we use this quite deeply, these questions in this part of the application. So I highly suggest that you take as much time in completing this section of these questions as you would with the rest of your application. And take the time to provide a lot of detail in your questions. So if a question asks about your customer service experience, try to say what types of customer service that you have experience with. Is it in person? Is it on the phone? Is it through online chat or email, face-to-face, that sort of thing. The volume of customer service that you have experience with. So is it typically maybe 25 contacts a day, or is it maybe 200 contacts a day? That's helpful information to us. What type of service? Was it routine inquiries, or was it something that you needed to follow up with on an individual basis to answer customer questions? That sort of thing. The more information that you can provide to us, the better we can evaluate your qualifications in these areas. It's your opportunity to sell yourself to us, and it's your opportunity to link your background and your experience and your knowledge to the requirements of the position. So again, this is something that's very, very important to us. So then you can see here in the upper right-hand corner is the apply button. So this is where you would start filling out the online application for us. If you don't have an account, you can create an account, or you can log in. And let me do this quickly for my account so you can see briefly what it would look like. if you were doing this for yourself. So as I mentioned, there's different sections of the application. So what's helpful is the online application, you work through each section so you know how much you've accomplished and how much you still have to complete before it's finished. The general information section, as I mentioned, just basic contact information, and then your work experience. So for all of your work experience, you will add where it was, how long you worked there, the position title, start date, end date, why you left, who your supervisor was, and then the job duties that you fulfilled in that position. So you would do that for all of your work history. And then your education is the same. And then you just work through each of these different categories or sections of the online application. And then when you're done, you submit it. One of the final parts that you will complete is a certification, and this is you will attest through your submission of your application that the information that you provide is accurate, truthful. You're just attesting that it's complete and that the information is accurate, and then you would submit your application for that. I'm not going to apply for that now because I am not looking for a different position at this time, and I'm not qualified, unfortunately, for a civil engineer position as well. I did want to note that if you're looking at these different current job openings with the city, the Telecommunicator 1 application process is a little bit different. You will see there's no apply button here in the upper right hand corner. The rest of the job posting looks pretty much the same. We've got the description and we've got the benefits section here at the top as well. But there are no supplemental questions and there's no apply button. The reason for this is we, instead of having a specific application for this position, we do continuous testing and application process for this position. This is a position where we do see turnover fairly regularly for this position just due to various factors. And so we generally do have at least one vacant position. We have 27 to 30 TCs. So there's turnover at any point in time. So we do continuous testing, and we have a vendor that we have contracted with for that process, and that's called the National Testing Network. So in this job posting, you would then click that link right there to go to the National Testing Network, and that's where you would apply and register for the position. That position has a specific test, actually multiple tests associated with that in order to start the process to apply for that position. And that's all done through that vendor. So I did just want to note that. Some other things I wanted to note as we are on this page, in the upper left-hand corner, you'll see that there's a menu button. Clicking on that, you'll see there's a variety of links available there. So one thing is the job interest card, which we already discussed, I already showed you. So you can access that through the job opportunities page, which I did, or you can access it here through the menu. There's also a link where you can get job descriptions for city positions. So you can just search generally as they come up in alphabetical order, or you can search for a specific job title or keyword, and it'll bring that up. This is a little bit more, it's very similar to what you'll see in the job postings, but this is for all the positions with the city, not just the ones that we have open at any given time. Then on the menu button as well, just clicking down, you'll go back to the city's homepage, which was the first page that we landed on. You also go to our human resources page. I wanted to talk about this just a little bit because we have a lot of information just on this page about jobs and employment with the city. So this link right here at the top of the page, see, it's called jobs. So there's a lot of information here about our jobs and descriptions. So that will take you back to the job descriptions that I just showed you. We have some career planning resources available on our site. The library has a lot also available, so I recommend you look at the resources that they have available as well. Some information on how to apply for positions with the city. So this is information that supplements my presentation today. So I certainly recommend that you take a look at that in your free time. And then the application process itself, basically what I just walked you through. And then the selection process, which I will talk about a little bit later. Information on our public safety careers, because these are the positions that do tend to have more specific and different selection processes than non-public safety. They're the positions that have additional testing and maybe multiple steps in the process. Information on for our different employee groups, both our bargaining unit employees and our non-bargaining unit. So we have the different union contracts available here. So if you're contemplating a position that is within one of our unions, you can view the whole contract here if you'd like more information about that. And then our non-bargaining unit handbook. And then we do offer links to other job opportunities with other agencies in our community as well as throughout the state. And I also wanted to mention or show to you today, we have information about salaries and benefits, always important areas of interest to people. So here under salaries, we have what's called the salary schedule. So for all of our positions here at the city, we have the salaries for each fiscal year. So you can see police salaries, as I mentioned, those are based on the contract. So they are very set rather than range. They have a set hourly rate, whereas some other positions, and pardon me while I move through this quickly, but we have these are all bargaining unit positions here. But then as we move, here they are, start to be some of our non-bargaining unit positions. And these are a range, as I referenced earlier. So that's available on our website if you want to look at that at any point. And then benefits. So information about the benefits that we offer to our employees. And I would like to also just underneath fringe benefit summaries. So these are a quick overview of the different types of positions that we have and what those benefits are. So for one of our non-bargaining unit position classifications, this is a little bit easier to read and view and understand than drilling deeper into the bargaining unit contract or the non-bargaining unit handbook. So it talks about the health insurance, so what those premiums are for either the city or the employee. Same with dental and vision. And then information on some of the other benefits, again, based on the different position type, excuse me. And then some frequently asked questions. So we do try to provide a lot of information through our website as a resource to people at any point in time. But of course, then you can always contact us here in the Human Resources Department and either speak with me or someone else and be happy to answer questions that you may have about employment with the city. So I think right now that covers most of the resources on our website. So I'm going to jump back to the presentation. Okay, and move forward with that. So once you've applied for a job with the city, what next? What happens? Well, we wait until after the application deadline to begin reviewing applications. So basically nothing happens until the application deadline has passed. Once it passes, we review the applications that we've received. And so part of that includes reviewing those supplemental question and responses that I talked about earlier. This is done blindly. So when we first start reviewing your application and the supplemental question responses, this is done by your account number in our system. So we don't have your name, we don't have your gender, we don't have your address, date of birth, any other personally identifiable information. We don't know if you went to college or what school you attended or anything like that. So we are trying to do this in as fair and open and non-discriminatory way as possible. And the goal of doing the application review is firstly to identify candidates who are minimally qualified for the position. So these are the candidates that meet those required qualifications that we talked about in the job posting. And then we also use the information in the application to supplement the information in the supplemental question responses so that we can get a little bit more detail possibly, or to clarify responses to the supplemental questions. Again, our goal is to be as accurate and thorough and complete as possible in reviewing applications. Our goal is to ideally have as many candidates as possible to move forward to each step in the process, because the process is kind of like a funnel. So we start off with the whole applicant pool, and each step of our selection process, we're going to narrow the pool a little bit further until we have the candidate that we've identified as best qualified and we make an offer to. So it helps us out if our funnel is as wide as possible at the top, and provide an opportunity for as many people to be considered for the position as possible. However, I do want to note that selection for advancement to the next step or steps in our process is based on the specific qualifications of each particular applicant pool. So maybe you apply for an administrative position, administrative assistant position, and you are selected for advancement to, say, a phone interview, and you move forward in that process. And unfortunately, you're not selected for that particular position. Then maybe 3 months down the line, we have another administrative assistant position in another department, and you apply for that one. So although your qualifications may be the same, if there are more candidates that are higher or more qualified, have higher qualifications in that second applicant pool, you might not be selected for advancement based on the qualifications of that second applicant pool. So if you're not selected for advancement, it does not mean that you're not qualified. It does not mean that you are not able to perform the duties and the functions of that position. It may simply mean that we have more candidates that are more highly qualified than you for that particular process or position. So if at any point you ever do apply for a position and you're not selected, I do highly encourage you to apply again in the future, just because each applicant pool is so unique and distinct. So our selection process, this is an overview. There may be some nuances or differences for each particular position. So pre-offer, most of our processes will include a telephone interview, but that is dependent on the number of qualified applicants that we have. If we have a great number of qualified applicants, then we'll do a phone interview, and that's a way for us to help narrow the pool down to the number of people that we will do final interviews with. Or if we have only a few number, for some of our niche positions, we may have a very small applicant pool. And so for that position, we may skip phone interviews and go directly to the final interview step. Final interviews historically have been in person, but during the pandemic, as with many things in life, we had to pivot our process. And so we were conducting final interviews by Zoom. We are now back to conducting final interviews in person, but that may be subject to change as well. So we have options available to us now, so at least we know that. And then for positions, we do conduct reference checks. So we want to contact your former employer, ideally former supervisors, and we're going to ask, what are your work habits and behavior performance like in those previous positions that you've held? What are you like as far as a team member? Things like that relate to the specific position that you're applying for. And then some positions, not all, may have testing involved. So sometimes we may have some skills testing if a position has to deal with a specific applications, such as Microsoft suite of programs like Word or Access, Excel, PowerPoint, or if a position requires a certain level of ability to proofread or certain things like that. Certain positions within the city are privy to very confidential and secure and private information or financial information. And so those positions may be required to go through a background investigation, which will include a criminal history record check and possibly other steps. And then some positions where that may have driving as an essential function of that position, we'll have to conduct a driving record check to make sure that you meet that qualifications to drive a city vehicle. Then once we do the pre-offer, steps are finished and we have identified that candidate that we would like to make an offer to, we make that offer. Starts with a verbal offer. So the hiring manager will reach out to the selected candidate and make that verbal offer. During that conversation, talk about and confirm the salary for that offer and talk about potential start dates. And then if there are any post-offer steps to be completed, we will follow that up, such as the pre-employment drug screen that I mentioned earlier, which is applicable to most city positions. And then some others have that criminal history record check that I mentioned, or some other pre-employment tests that have to be done. Once those are completed, and if the candidate successfully passes them, we then go back and provide a written confirmed offer in writing. Talks a little bit about benefits. I'll attach a fringe benefit summary to that letter, and then also talk about I-9 requirements. And that's something that occurs on the first day of work, is to complete I-9 paperwork to confirm eligibility for employment within the United States. So that's a brief overview. Once you apply, the steps of our hiring and selection process. So what are the goals? Obviously, the goal of our hiring process, we have a vacant position and we want someone to fill that vacant position and perform that work. But our hiring process goals are we want the process to be open and fair and transparent. We want, again, as I mentioned, in as much as possible, make employment with the city accessible to people within our community. And we want a workforce that reflects the community that we serve. And to that end, we review our applicant pools for diversity. And if we don't have a level of diversity in our applicant pool that we have set for that, we will repost and come up with other strategies to try to increase the diversity of that pool before we move forward to other steps in the selection process. And we want to evaluate people based on your backgrounds and your experience and your knowledge and skills and ability, what you know rather than who you know. So that's why we do blind screening initially. And we want to provide everyone with consistent communication throughout the process. I hear reports many times from candidates saying they've applied for positions with other employers. They submit the application and then they never hear back. So we do have a commitment to providing that ongoing communication, and we'll let you know at each step if you are selected for advancement or not, so you're not left wondering or in the dark. So just for some final thoughts, I want to again refer back to one of our telecommunicators, Mindy Beasley, with some final thoughts about our presentation.
If your true passion is to help people, you are going to help more people than you could ever imagine.
I don't think I could have said that any better myself. And again, that's through a variety of ways that us as city employees, we serve our community and help people in a variety of different ways and provide service to people in a variety of different ways. And that's why we do the things we do. And hopefully, maybe someday, some of you may join us as well.
If your true passion is to...
And that concludes my presentation for today. I want to thank you very much for your time and your attention and your patience. And looks like we may have some questions that have been submitted through this. Jordan, is that true?
Yes, I think I addressed it. I think I addressed them. They wanted to know if it would be recorded, which it is. Well, thank you, Stacy. That was great. I'm going to share my screen for just a moment here, if that's okay with you.
Sure.
I think I'm sharing it there. Okay, perfect. Well, once again, we appreciate your time, Stacy, and your sharing of this helpful information. Here is my contact information if you didn't catch Stacy's information. If you have any career-related questions or if you want any help with job applications, reviewing your resume or your cover letter, or if you would like to schedule a practice interview, we could meet here at the library or virtually. So please feel free to reach out. And thank you again, everyone, for joining us. Our next career webinar will be Ask an Expert with another Stacy, Stacy Gordon, who is an executive advisor, diversity strategist, and career expert. She's also created some great courses on our LinkedIn Learning platform, which is a great online service that the library subscribes to. She will join us on Tuesday, October 26th at 7 p.m. to answer your career questions, which you can submit ahead of time, or you can ask live during the webinar. And we hope you'll consider attending more webinars and workshops. I have our November career webinars listed here, but we do have more webinars coming up related to our business series, our tech series, Crafty Adults, our writers workshops. So please take a look at our events calendar by visiting champaign.org/events. You could also sign up to receive the latest library news and updates by subscribing to our newsletter by visiting champaign.org/news. And if you missed Stacy's contact information or my contact information, you could email us at librarian@champaign.org. If you need any one-on-one help with technology, of course, anything career related, as I mentioned earlier, or anything else, you can book a librarian for a one-on-one consultation with library staff. And I'm going to turn on my video for just a moment here. Thank you, Stacy. Thank you for joining us. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you so much for the opportunity, and I hope it was useful, and look forward to working with you and maybe doing more presentations in the future.
Definitely, definitely. Well, I don't see any questions or comments, so I think I'll go ahead and end the webinar. I hope everyone enjoys their morning. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Mm.
Bye-bye.